remember in the lead up to the election last year when many in the tech industry were voicing their concerns about election deepfakes? Well, a federal judge in California just struck down a law that was intended to put restrictions on that kind of content, and surprise, surprise, Elon Musk is at the center of this important free speech case.
So here's what happened. California Governor Gavin Newsom signed 2 bills into law last year after Musk shared a doctored video of then Vice President Kamala Harris ahead of the election. The laws required platforms to pull deceptive AI content related to the election and required labels on any digitally altered campaign materials and ads. Those 2 laws were challenged by the creator of the video that Musk shared on free speech grounds. Musk and X later jumped on the suit, arguing that the laws were, quote, designed to make computer-generated parody illegal.
In his ruling in Musk's favor, Judge John Menendez declined to give an opinion on the First Amendment arguments. He instead pointed to federal rules for online platforms. Menendez said the law requiring platforms to pull the content was contrary to Section 230 of the Communications Decency Act, which does shield platforms like X and Facebook from liability for what its users post. He also indicated that he intended to overrule the law requiring a label on digitally altered campaign materials.
The ruling was met with mixed reviews. Journalist at Florida's Voice, Eric Doherty, called it a victory on X, saying, quote, comedy is and always should be legal and unrestricted. But an AI influencer, Anastasia Moore, warned in her own post to Musk's platform, quote, now X can legally host AI-fueled campaign madness. Welcome to election 2026. Buckle up.
I applaud this ruling, which is just a clearly recognizing the federal law. We talked about this last week. Section 230 is a federal law, so it supersedes state law. The state of California tried to have a law saying that the platforms had to take down deepfakes. This judge didn't even rule on the First Amendment question. So that it still could be found that doing that would violate the First Amendment. I would argue, obviously, it violates the First Amendment. But that's not even what he said. What he said is that it violates a federal law, Section 230, which says that the content that appears on a social media site or any internet website, whether it's Facebook, X, or the website of thehill.com, the comments there, that content is not owned by the platform. The platform is not liable for it. So you could have a law maybe requiring I would say it would violate the First Amendment still, but the person who creates the AI video would have to take it down, but you can't require X, the platform, to take it down because they're not responsible for the content that appears on the site, according to Section 230, the federal law.
Look, I think that
sorry, you lose.
I think the American public is really smart, and I think everybody has discernment. I think AI videos are getting better and better, and so people may sadly mistake something that's AI for truth. So when you attach that to a candidate like Kamala Harris, who said, I'm the ultimate diversity hire in this AI video, it will make people think that she is actually rallying on the fact that she got her job specifically for DEI or something like that. And that's just a lie. So all her jobs, she actually has worked very hard throughout her career. And either way, even if she was a DEI hire, what does that mean? And it didn't come out of her mouth. We need to just actually have facts. You hold in your radar.
She's not a DEI choice for vice president.
You hold people to a certain standard that were former journalists that you're not holding these huge companies to. So you're asking Acosta in the first segment in Radar not to interview an AI version of a Parkland victim because that's unethical.
Yes.
Well, I think it's unethical to have somebody who's running and actually still alive for a position that people are living and breathing on social media, feeding into the news, understanding what's going on, and consuming information that way. I mean, I saw a video this week of Sydney Sweeney crying out of context, and somebody made it seem like she was crying over the ad. And if I hadn't read into it, and a lot of people don't have the time to, then I would be like, oh man, she's crying over this? That's a lot. But it wasn't true. That was tears from like years ago. And so that's what I mean. Like, you have to really be super discerning on social media, and there's no guardrails. I don't think that there should be complete guardrails, but I think we should start to consider that sometimes people are going to take face value a quick video as law, and when it can affect elections or affect your opinion of a candidate in an election, I think that's too far. And you should not just want it to be willy-nilly on social media, especially when you believe that social media and digital new media is the wave of the future and the wave of information, and we should trust people online as much as we trust real journalists at these standard outlets. Well, it starts with having accountability, the same accountability you want for Acosta to have for these platform owners, and not having false information on their sites.
Well,
and it's don't hide behind a parody either. It's not a joke.
It's not on the platform to control. I don't want the platform to exercise control over the content to a greater degree.
And put even a message saying this is false?
That's not on. They don't have to do that.
They should
have a policy.
Well,
it's up to them whether they think that policy is good or not. I'm not against that necessarily. I would say it this way: if your manipulation and your deepfake or whatever is so impressive and is not labeled as parody in any way, then we might be getting into territory where what you're doing, you, the creator of the content, not you, the platform. Again, the platform is not liable. You, the creator of the content, might be engaged in a kind of fraud, whereas you're actually misrepresenting something as something else, and then perhaps someone who is misrepresented in that way could sue that person for doing that. You could see, like, what if you made a deep fake of the CEO of, I don't know, Pfizer saying our vaccines don't actually work and Pfizer's stock price went down. This X would not be liable for that. You might be liable for that for making the content. We should hold people accountable for the things they themselves do. So I'm not against that necessarily, but that's not beyond the realm of what civil liability already has. We don't necessarily need new laws for that. And I would be very wary of doing it in political cases because there's a long and proud history in this country of satire and parody and making fun of political figures. Most people, some of these deepfakes are getting more impressive, but we've been warned for years that the internet makes people confused and people believe everything they see. That's what we're told, and then what we find out is that very small numbers of people are really, really, really fooled by, they tend to be boomers, they tend to be old people. They get fooled,
I'm glad you said
but
that.
Other people don't.
I'm glad you said that because to me, it can lead to misinformation. It can lead to people getting scammed. I can only speak from personal experience. There's a couple older people in my vicinity that have gotten either scammed on one of these apps or a phone call that led to a scam. So these things are all just elevated ways to get people in bad situations. And so when you have information and people are using the internet in different ways, like the way that Gen Zer uses the internet compared to my grandmother is not the same. And so a Gen Zer might be like, oh, that's stupid, that's not real, because they play and they edit in apps and they use technology in a way that's even faster than I do. But then when you have my grandmother who's never edited a video in her life and just posting everything using Instagram incorrectly, well, not incorrectly, the way that she wants to use it, then she can easily see something and think that I actually said it or think someone else actually said it, and then when they ask for money or they do something like that, it's a lie.
And let's not overly praise Gen Z here. They'll see like a
I love
TikTok
Gen
of
Z.
Osama bin Laden saying we deserve to have the Twin Towers get knocked over, and they're like, oh yes, that's great. Slay.
My point is that that's not right either. And so I think at the very least, like, these social media companies should have the responsibility of labeling something as incorrect information or needs more detail, where somebody can drop down and actually explain stuff, like we saw on Instagram during the pandemic. Like, we can't just have lies going up there, especially people were in disarray. People were getting the wrong information, like, oh, this is not accurate, like vaccines require this. Like, there's so much information out there. People need the
absolutely not
yes.
for 1 second.
No,
you just pointed to examples that show why this is a bad idea. The labels, those little fact check, well, who gets to decide? Those ended up being wrong all the time.
Let unbiased AI that you trust in decide, right? Just like you can put it in there, let unbiased AI gather information based on data and real research.
Okay, well, X actually does this already, the community notes function. And you can ask Grok. You can put a community notes.
Wrong and racist.
Grok is sometimes wrong.
What is that? Who programs that?
Okay, the fact checker activist groups that do fact checking for Facebook that program got sacked, those people were wrong constantly. Like, the fact checkers are wrong sometimes and the AI is wrong. The people, like, there's no independent, perfectly brilliant, smart, objective people who we can trust to decide what's true or false.
So the solution is willy-nilly, just do whatever? The internet's the wild, wild west, and just accept these lies, accept Kamala Harris being deepfaked and somebody's grandma believing it, these boomers that you're always talking about falling for these lies and then saying, I'm not voting for her or anyone
If there was
else.
this perfect entity that could tell truth from lies and knew what everything was, well, then we wouldn't even need free speech because we could just do whatever that thing said. But that thing doesn't exist. So we need free speech so that we can argue and discuss and engage with lies, engage with misinformation, and find out what the truth is.
There shouldn't be any type of weird unpacking here. Like, if something is a deep fake of somebody, it should be gone. That's it. It shouldn't be misrepresenting anything that they actually feel, dead or alive. You should agree with that. Yes, you shouldn't misrepresent somebody's thoughts, or that leads into defamation of character.
We shouldn't defame people. We shouldn't create fraud. And I think it's better for it to be labeled. And maybe if it's not labeled, you could be sued over it. But that's different from saying the platform ought to or be obligated to do something. And if you really feel that way, you can do that. You have to amend Section 230, which is a federal law. States can't just supersede what the federal government's social media policy is. Next up, a new Levi's jeans ad starring Beyonce is reigniting the culture war over my favorite subject, the Sydney Sweeney American Eagle Good Genes ad. Love it. We'll break it down right after this.